Good morning. Welcome back to the Broadcast Retirement Network. I'm Jeff Snyder. This is BRN AM for Monday, October 4th, 2021. And our top story today, Slovenia surpasses the US and the UK in the latest Global Retirement Index. Joining me now to discuss this and a lot more is Ziga Vizintin. He's advisor to the management board at Pogajeniska Druzba A Pension Fund. Ziga, great to see you. Thanks so much for joining us on the program this morning.
Thanks for having me, Jeff. Always a pleasure.
Yeah, it's always great to talk about different retirement systems. And, there was a survey done, I think about 2 weeks ago, not a survey, a report issued by Natixis, a asset management firm, about globally ranking the retirement system. And Slovenia has surpassed the US and the UK. I think it's ranked number 16 now. I want to get your reaction to that.
Yes, it's true. I've also read it and was quite intrigued by it. Slovenia this year overtook both US and UK, and we are now in the 16th place, and US in the 17th. So, of course, anybody reading this will ask how ex-socialist country of 2 million from Europe overtook two giants, financial giants, the UK and US. I also looked at it, but I quickly remembered the Natixis index because I've looked at it before, years ago. And if you really look at how the index is made up, then you are not so surprised. First thing is, yeah, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. So let's unpack that a little bit more. You made some really good points. 2 million people in a smaller country, ex-Soviet satellite state, socialist state. Let's talk about the retirement system. Give us some of the high points. Is it primarily defined contribution? Are there pension? Is it a combined system? Remind us.
First thing you need to know, because of the socialist legacy, we have high Pillar 1 pensions. So basically, the average old age pension in Slovenia now is around 60% of net salary. So we have a 60% replacement rate, which compared to US or UK is really high. So this is, I think, one thing that immediately pushes up. Besides this, we do have a second pension pillar, which is still not developed as it should be, but still there are more than half of all employees are enrolled, and it's got a 20-year-old history. So in the future, it will also make up a certain percentage of income for retirees. But the main thing I think about this index is that it's looking at the situation now, how it is for retirees now. And Slovenia here scores really high on the material, because this index is made up of, I think, 18 subcategories. And we have really high scores in both the quality of life sub-indexes and material well-being sub-index. One of the main things where we are really highest is income equality. In Slovenia, the difference between, salary of a CEO and a salary of an employee in a factory is they're really close. Also between retirees and employees, the differences are not like in the US or UK. So this puts us high in this index. Unemployment is also really low. And on the other side, we have really good habitat, really good natural habitat. We are, I think, the third most forested country in the world. So this index also looks at the quality of life, biodiversity. So here we also score really high. I have a few friends also from US and UK. Whether they come here, they're always fascinated with the environment. So I think because of this makeup, good natural environment, and also the past history of having really high Pillar 1 pensions makes us really good for the current retirees.
What are some lessons, you talk about some of these other developed countries that are now below Slovenia, and obviously you had the opportunity, although you were, under Soviet rule, you were part of the Soviet satellite, entity, I guess, for lack of a better term, the Soviet Union. So you had an opportunity to kind of rekindle yourselves after the fall of the Iron Curtain. But what are some lessons when you talk about building a retirement system for the future, where you have equity and parity for citizens? What are some of the key lessons that you would take away and impart upon, if you could, policymakers in some of these other developed countries?
Here, I think what influences the quality of life of all employees, not just all citizens, not just the older ones who are retired, is still having an affordable welfare system, meaning not just education for the young, but also for the older, having a good and approachable health system, and also having the retirement homes and things like that. This kind of insurance in Slovenia, the state still covers the biggest cost of, let's say, if you go to a retirement home. So I think this basically having high public health system, I think this is a real financial burden for the elderly. And we see it from data from US, UK. This is one of the biggest expenses in old age. So I think here Slovenia, we sometimes complain about our health system, but comparing it to other states, it's really still affordable, and the general level is still high, and you pay general contributions, but you don't need to have any private insurance to cover this. So I think this is one big lesson, to keep those systems basically at a high general level. But the other thing, I think we in Slovenia and similar countries have to really take up from having a high score now in this index and looking at US and US. Basically, the sustainability of our current level, I think, is a real problem. And this is where really we, countries that are now ranked high, really need to pay much focus, because, okay, we have a good ranking now, but how will it be in 20 years? Because we know the demographic shift is happening. We are having more and more older people, and our pension first pillar system will be under tremendous pressure in the future, much higher than UK and US. So the sustainability, how we will be able to sustain those systems and the healthcare system in the future, that's a big challenge for us. So I think for us, this is the main lesson of this index. We are okay now, but what will be in 20 years?
Yeah, and it's interesting you bring that up. I got to go to a quick commercial break, but no matter who you talk to in what country, it always comes down to mortality and longevity, or longevity and mortality. Ziga, I need to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll talk about how participants in the Pokojeniska Družba pension plan reacted during the pandemic. You're going to want to stay tuned right here on BRN AM. Imagine a new television network that will make you richer, healthier, and in control of your financial future. This network is for the policewoman in Nashville, Tennessee, the baker in Dubuque, Iowa, the teacher in Lexington, Kentucky. We want to make the idea of savings and retirement culturally relevant. But what do you see as a defining issue of the midterms, especially for the smaller businesses? I mean, they are the lifeblood of the American economy. Featuring exclusive interviews, current affairs, and docuseries. 33 years old, you retired early.
The philosophy is money only matters if it helps you live a life that you love.
But you got to start thinking about retirement as soon as you get in.
The Broadcast Retirement Network will drive very high engagement with premium partnerships. So this isn't retirement and savings for your parents or grandparents. This is for all Americans. And we're going to change the way you think about money. Welcome to the next frontier of retirement and savings. This is BRN, the Broadcast Retirement Network.
You need a financial plan that fits the way you want to live in retirement. A plan that can help grow and protect your money, now or in the future. With an annuity in your plan to help cover essential expenses, you'll have the freedom to live the retirement you want. This is what an annuity can do. Find the right financial professional to show you how. Learn more at protectedincome.org.
Welcome back. We're joined this morning by Ziga Vizintin, advisor to the management board of Pokajaniska Druzba A Pension Fund. Ziga, thanks for staying with us this morning.
Thanks.
Yeah, really interesting discussion, and I love learning about different retirement systems. And as we talked about, we're all getting older. Societies are getting older, whether it's in Slovenia, the U.S., China. I guess we need to have a higher fertility rate. But let's talk about the Pokajaniska Druzba A Pension Fund and talk about participant behavior during COVID. You did a lot of research. You and the team at Pokajaniska Druzba A did a lot of research here. What can you tell us about participant behavior?
Well, we all remember last year and the high market volatility at the beginning. In March, we all know stocks fell incredibly, and basically markets were in quite a big shock because of the pandemic and the effect it had on the economy. But what we also know from last year that everything picked up really quickly, and we had one of the biggest comebacks, one of the fastest comebacks ever after such black swan events, as some call them. So basically at the end of the year, everything came back. But of course, at the beginning of this year, I was interested how our members, how employees who save in our pension fund, how did they behave? Did they panic in March because also their balances dropped? Did they switch fund? Because just for information, we have life cycle funds here in Slovenia, which are kind of similar to target date funds, except here the member is changed between funds from more equity to more conservative fund according to his age. In target date funds, the fund itself changes structure. So basically, I went looking if members panicked and switched from more dynamic funds to the conservative funds after the markets dropped. And surprisingly enough, I was really positively surprised when I looked at all the data from our fund. We have 55,000 members and 400 million assets. Basically, we had almost no changes in asset allocation. So we can conclude basically almost none of our members, less than 1% of our members changed their asset allocation, which is on the average of last year. And when I went looking also at data from US, ICI and also Morningstar have a nice report on this topic. And basically, we also saw in America, I think at around average 10% of members change their asset allocation, which is similar as in previous year. So I think this is, sorry, you wanted to ask?
No, finish your thought.
So I think this shows a really good sign that the DC pension system in this case proved to be really robust, because we know if members change their allocation, panic, in the long run, it's not good for them.
I was going to ask you, what do you attribute this lack of change? Is it the education that Pokajaniska Druzba A is doing for its members? And also, is this similar experience to some of your peers who have similar plans?
Yes, when we talk to others, basically all shared a similar experience. I think there are many reasons for this. One being, okay, of course, everybody in the industry, especially in our fund, I can say for us, we also increased our communication with the members a lot in these times, because we know when there are turbulent times, you need to be more in contact with them. You need to calm them down, explain why this is happening, and also explain that saving and investing in equity is a long-term game. So we really did a lot of this. We went personally to all the biggest companies that are funding our pension plans. We talked to people, we talked with employees as much as possible. So we really increased this as much as possible. So basically everybody got the information that this was expected, but things will pick up in a year or two, and that everybody is saving for retirement for 30, 40 years in the future. So they really need to worry. One thing also, I think that's a bit of a big plus for retirement saving. Most people contribute every month to their retirement plan. So even if you have quite a big drop in your asset, still because of monthly contributions, the drops are not so high as if you would just have a fixed portfolio. So I think that also psychologically to members, when they checked their online accounts, their balance didn't go so down much as it would if you would have a fixed amount there.
Yeah, I do, and I agree with that. I think that, just anecdotally, people want to know that they're diversified. Like in the States, that you have success with target date or life cycle funds, that allows diversification. It's not perfection. You're not guaranteed that you're not going to have a loss, but because of that, it's professionally managed, it's diversified. Do you think people are more comfortable knowing that because of that diversification, they're going to mitigate what could be even greater losses?
For sure. I think this whole episode of last year was, we have life cycle funds in Slovenia for only 5 years because the legislation didn't permit them before. I think the whole last year is the biggest commercial for us now because we got so much positive feedback. At the end of the year, everything recovered, everything was as it should be, somewhere even in plus. Basically, everybody was telling us, it's good, you did a good job. We see now for ourselves that the portfolio performed as it should. It dropped, but it went back up. So now people saw, because in Slovenia, in US, you had many history of going up and down in the market, also DC plan participants. In Slovenia, this kind of volatility didn't happen before because we only had one conservative fund. So now basically all of our members experienced this. They saw that we survived it with no problem. Everything went as expected. And I think now when people see it on their own, they trust it even more. And also in the US, I think I spoke to a few colleagues, they also said for target date funds, this whole episode is a really good experience for the members.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's kind of a set it and forget it mentality. And I think you can set it, you don't necessarily want to forget it. You want to make sure that you're constantly evaluating your decisions, maybe at least annually in terms of your allocation. But I think you're right. People feel a bit more comfortable knowing that they're in a professionally managed fund that's well diversified, helps mitigate the greater loss. Ziga Vizin team, we're going to have to leave it there. Always great to chat with you and learn more about the Slovenian pension and defined contribution system. Have a great rest of your week, and we'll talk to you again very soon.
Thank you very much for having me, and bye.
And that wraps up this episode of BRN AM. Have a topic of interest, someone you think we should talk to, drop us a line. And don't forget, for all the information in retirement, markets, technology, personal finance, so much more, check out today's edition of our daily newsletter, The Morning Pulse. We're back again tomorrow for another edition of BRN AM. Until then, I'm Jeff Snyder. Stay safe, keep on saving, and don't forget, roll with the changes.
Are you being audited and do you owe the IRS $10,000 or more in back taxes? Is the IRS threatening to take more of your money? Don't fight the IRS alone. The Tax Doctor is here to help you negotiate your tax bill and reduce your stress. The IRS can freeze your assets and seize your bank accounts, but you can stop these IRS actions. The Tax Doctor will work with you using our years of experience to represent your case to help you get the best resolution under the IRS guidelines. Help is here to deal with the IRS to reduce your stress. We've handled thousands of cases, so we know what we're doing. If you owe $10,000 or more in back taxes, do not call the IRS alone. Call a Tax Doctor now for a tax emergency analysis.
Call 800-224-6439.